Let us look at the anatomy of weight loss. Anatomy of weight loss. For us to cover this, we have to understand how your body works and how you put on weight. The human body needs energy. For you to be functional, for you to live life, for you to talk, for you to open your eyes, for you to breathe, for you to be able to move, and above everything else, for you to be able to think, you need energy. And how do we get energy into the human body? We get energy through food. Food is divided into three different groups that we call macronutrients. 25% of the food that we put in, 25% of the food that we feed our faces is utilized by your brain, even though your brain as an organ only occupies 2% of your total body weight. So your brain is a big energy sucking machine. And anytime there's a deficit, anytime there's a drop, anytime there's starvation, the first thing that is affected and the first thing that has to lower its output so that you can sustain life becomes your brain. When it comes to food, we're going to talk about, number one here, we have what we call carbohydrates. Number two, we have what we call proteins. And number three, we have what we call fats. Under carbohydrates is divided into three different macronutrients. Number one is what we call starchy carbohydrates. And these are the foods, carbs. These are the foods when you eat them or when you cook them, they're as close to nature as possible. And the most common ones here are things like rice, things like your pasta, things like your jungle oats, things like bananas or plantains, things like cassavas, sweet potatoes, among many other things. Then we have what we call processed or simple carbohydrates. This, in simple terms, is what we call sugary carbs. These are your breakfast cereals. These are your sodas. These are your fruit juices. These are your fruit juices. These are your fruits. These are your sweets. These are your candy, ice cream, among many other things. These are normally our poison of choice. And then we have what we call starchy or fibrous carbohydrates. Starchy or fibrous carbohydrates. These are the ones that we need as fiber. These are the ones that we need for your digestive system. These are the foods that your probiotics in your tummy use as a source of fuel. And this brings in things like your veggies, you have lentils, you have things like beans, basically legumes. And then of course we have proteins. Protein is anything that walks, anything that swims, or anything that flies. These are normally, in most cases, are going to be your meats. You got your eggs, you have your chicken, you have things like your dairy. But dairy here, I'll put a big stop. We'll talk about that in another video. And then we've got your fats. Your fats, we've got good fat. This is the fat that is good for your heart. This is the fat that is good for lubrication. This is the fat that keeps you young. And under this, you have things like your avocados. You have things like coconut. You have olive oil. You have nuts and seeds. You have omega-3s. And then we have what we call bad fats. These are the fats that clog your heart. These are the fats that clog your arteries. These are the fats that give you disease. These are the fats that kill people. And this, in most cases, is what we call trans fats. These are the fats that you get in your cakes. These are the fats that you get in your chips and all those. But today we want to focus more on carbohydrates and fats. So when it comes to your source of energy, there's only two macronutrients that your body breaks down to be used as your source of fuel. When you're eating rice, when you're eating sweet potato, your body does not see sweet potato. Your cells can only use the byproduct, which is glycogen, after it's been broken down. And that's what becomes your main source of fuel. So here we have carbohydrates and you have fats. These are the two sources that your body can use. It can use carbohydrates here, what we call glycogen, or it can use your fats here, that what we call triglycerides. These are the two sources that your body uses. Now, depending on what your main source of fuel is, if it's glycogen, which is sugar, there is number one biggest hormone that is going to be released here is what we call insulin. Insulin, your body is purely, this is what we call metabolic flexibility. Your body is, your body is more like, what should I say? Your body is more like a hybrid. Depending on what you feed it will determine what is going to be your main source of fuel. So if you're eating a lot of carbohydrates, of course, glycogen becomes your main source of fuel. If you're eating a lot of fats, triglycerides becomes your main source of fuel. And if you're eating a lot of glycogen, then there's a lot of insulin in your bloodstream. If you have a lot of insulin, insulin's main job here is always to take out all the sugar, take out sugar out of your bloodstream and store it where? As your fat cells. So you cannot be healthy, you cannot lose weight, you cannot be lean unless you understand insulin and your relationship of insulin and the carbohydrates that you eat. So you'll find one of the key things that most people don't understand that is keeping them fat, that is making them unhealthy, is insulin. Insulin simply means fat storing. And insulin has got a brother hormone here that we call glucagon. Glucagon here, insulin is fat storing because it stores fat in your fat cells, and glucagon is fat burning. So these two hormones are inversely related. If your insulin is high because you ate a lot of sugar, it means you're storing fat. If you're eating less fat, then it means your insulin goes down and your glucagon goes up, and automatically you start burning fat. So the trick here is to regulate your insulin. And that's the strategy, that's the system, the program that we use here at Dream Body Fitness. Any kind of nutrition, any kind of eating program that we put you on is to regulate your insulin, because it is a hormonal response that decides who you're going to become and how much weight you lose. See you in the inside. This is your coach, Mululu X.